What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors walks into what should be a routine morning show interview, only to be ambushed by questions that cross every professional line imaginable? In just 36 seconds of tense accusatory questioning, Savannah Guthrie would turn a cheerful promotional appearance into a moment that left viewers stunned, the studio audience silent and production staff frozen in disbelief. Moments later, one of the biggest movie stars in the world would stand up and walk off live television before millions of watching eyes. It began like any ordinary Tuesday morning on the Today Show set at Rockefeller Plaza. The lights were bright, the coffee was hot, and the hosts were ready for another day of feel-good segments, celebrity interviews, cooking demos, and upbeat human interest stories that helped America start its day with a smile. Tom Hardy was scheduled to appear for what everyone assumed would be a quick, painless segment to promote his latest high-octane action thriller. His publicity team had sent detailed talking points days in advance, approved questions, all cleared and professional. Nothing controversial. The plan was simple. Talk about the film, maybe a few fun anecdotes from set, some light banter, a couple of laughs, and wrap it up. That's how these things always went. Show up on time, smile for the cameras, be charming, promote the movie, shake hands, leave. But Savannah Guthrie had other plans. Plans no one on Tom's team had been warned about. Plans that would explode on live television. Tom walked out onto the brightly lit set with his usual grounded calm. He waved to the cheering studio audience, his trademark half-smile easing the room, then sat opposite Savannah, who greeted him with her practiced warmth. "Tom Hardy, welcome back to Today. Always such a pleasure to have you here." Tom smiled. "Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Always nice to be back in New York." Everything seemed perfectly normal. Hoda Kotb smiled supportively from the next chair, and Craig Melvin flipped through his notes. The cameras rolled live to millions of viewers across the country. Then Savannah's tone shifted. "But before we get to that," 4 words, and the entire energy in the studio changed. Tom's publicist, standing just off camera, visibly stiffened. Hoda glanced sideways with a faint look of concern. Craig's smile faded as Savannah leaned forward slightly, her posture sharpening. "So, Tom, let's just get right into it. No need to dance around anything. Your new movie's been getting some attention, sure. But I think what people really want to know, what they're truly curious about, is your personal life. You've been pretty private lately. Some might even say secretive. What exactly are you hiding from your fans?" The air went dead still. A clipboard clattered somewhere behind the cameras. The studio audience froze. Tom's expression shifted just slightly, his smile fading, his jaw tightening. But his composure held. His voice was calm, measured. "I'm not hiding anything, Savannah. I'm an open book when it comes to my work. I'm here to talk about the film, which I'm really proud of. We worked incredibly hard on it." Savannah leaned in, her eyes narrowing. "Right, the film. Of course." Then with a small, knowing smile. "But come on, Tom. You're a public figure. People have questions, real questions, about your relationships, your family. What's really going on behind the scenes? Don't you think you owe your fans that kind of transparency? Don't they deserve to know the real you?" And just like that, a morning show puff piece had turned into a televised confrontation that no one saw coming. Tom's jaw tightened visibly. You could see him processing, recalibrating, trying to figure out where this ambush had come from. He glanced toward Hoda. Her warm smile was gone, replaced by a tight, uneasy expression. Then his eyes returned to Savannah. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm. But there was a new weight behind it. Measured. Deliberate. "I don't think I owe anyone details about my private life. My work is what I share with the world. My work speaks for itself. That's my gift to audiences. Everything else is personal. That's my boundary." Craig Melvin jumped in quickly, his cheerful tone a little too forced. Hey, why don't we talk about the movie? Those action sequences look insane. I heard you did a lot of your own stunts again. That must have been wild, right? Tom looked visibly relieved, seizing the lifeline. Yeah, actually, that was one of the best parts. We had this sequence where I'm hanging off the side of a... But Savannah cut him off mid-sentence. Her voice sliced cleanly through his words. Deliberate and cold. That's great, Tom. Really fascinating stuff. But I'd like to circle back to what we were discussing earlier. She leaned forward, eyes sharp, tone dropping the friendly pretense entirely. I did some research preparing for this interview, and there are rumors circulating, some concerning ones, actually. Don't you think it's better to address them directly, rather than let speculation keep growing? Wouldn't it be better to just clear the air? The temperature in the studio seemed to drop 10 degrees. Tom's expression hardened. Whatever patience he had left was gone. What specific rumors are you talking about, Savannah? Because I have no idea what you're referring to. Savannah's eyes lit with something that looked almost like satisfaction. This was the moment she'd been steering toward all along. Well, there's been talk about your behavior on set. Allegedly difficult interactions with crew members. Some say you can be demanding. Unprofessional, even. People have described you as hard to work with. Any truth to that? Would you like to respond? The audience gasped audibly, a ripple of shock cutting through the silence. Hoda's eyes went wide. She looked down at her notes like she wanted to disappear behind them. Craig shifted in his seat, glancing helplessly between the two, as if watching a collision he couldn't stop. Tom sat perfectly still for a long moment, his face unreadable. His stillness said more than words could. Then, quietly, but with unmistakable fury, he spoke. Excuse me? You're sitting here on live television, accusing me of being difficult and unprofessional. Based on what exactly? Anonymous sources? Gossip blogs? You're throwing out accusations with no evidence, hoping something sticks. That's not journalism, Savannah. That's slander dressed up as curiosity. Savannah didn't flinch. If anything, she seemed to lean further in, emboldened by the confrontation. I'm not accusing you of anything, Tom. I'm asking questions that our viewers want answered. That's what journalism is. Seeking truth, asking the hard questions, holding people accountable. Tom let out a short, humorless laugh. Journalism. Is that what you're calling this? Because from where I'm sitting, this feels a lot more like a setup, an ambush, not an interview. Hoda finally spoke, her tone gentle, pleading. Tom, I think what Savannah's trying to say, or at least, what I hope she's trying to say. Tom raised a hand without taking his eyes off Savannah. No, Hoda, let her finish. I want to hear all of it. Every word. Savannah's expression hardened even more. She didn't like being challenged, not on her own show. Fine, she said sharply. Since you want me to be direct, I'll be direct. There are people in this industry, people who have worked with you, who say you're arrogant, that you think you're above this kind of thing, that you look down on shows like ours, that you're moody, unpredictable, difficult on set. So here's your chance to set the record straight. Are they right? The air in the studio grew thick, suffocating. No one moved. No one spoke. It was the kind of silence that only happens right before something explodes. Production assistants stood frozen behind the cameras, unsure whether to step in or just keep filming. In the control booth, the director barked confused orders through his headset, trying to decide whether to cut to commercial or let the drama play out. The audience sat in stunned silence. No laughter, no applause, just wide eyes and held breaths. Craig looked like he wanted to melt into the couch. Hoda had one hand pressed to her mouth, her eyes darting helplessly between Tom and Savannah. Tom stared at Savannah for what felt like a full minute, the silence stretching until it became almost unbearable. Then he finally spoke, low, deliberate, and sharp as glass. You know what's actually arrogant, Savannah? Inviting someone onto your show under the pretense of promoting their work, asking them to clear their schedule, show up in good faith, and then blindsiding them with personal attacks and baseless gossip. That's arrogance. Treating your guests like they're on trial for wanting a little privacy in their personal lives. That's arrogance. And the way you're handling this interview, this performance, might just be the most arrogant thing of all." Savannah's face flushed. Her voice came back hard and clipped. "I don't think you understand how this works, Tom. When you're a public figure, when you make millions because people care about you, you don't get to pick and choose when you engage with that public. You don't get to hide behind privacy when it's convenient and then seek attention when it benefits you. That's not how fame works." Tom shook his head slowly. His anger had cooled into something steadier, sadder, like disappointment. "No, I understand exactly how it works. I do my job. I give everything I have to my craft. I show up, I promote the films, I talk about the work. But that doesn't mean I've signed away my right to dignity. It doesn't mean I have to sit here and be insulted by someone who clearly came in with a script, with an agenda, with a story they wanted to tell before I ever sat down." Hoda leaned forward, her voice soft and trembling, trying to diffuse what was now an open wound on live television. "Tom, maybe we can all just take a breath here and—" Tom turned toward her gently, his tone warm but final. "I appreciate that, Hoda, I really do. But this has gone too far. This crossed too many lines." He looked back at Savannah. His voice was quieter now, but somehow even more powerful. "You want to know what's really going on here? You're frustrated that I won't play your game. I won't give you the sound bites you want. The outrage, the clickbait, the viral moment. You came in looking for controversy, and when I didn't give it to you, you decided to make me the villain of your story. That's what's happening." Savannah's voice rose, defensive now, the practiced composure slipping. "That's ridiculous, and you know it. I'm doing my job. I'm asking the questions that need to be asked. If you can't handle tough questions, if you can't handle a little scrutiny, maybe you shouldn't be in this business at all." That was it, the breaking point. Tom stood up in one smooth, deliberate motion. The entire studio seemed to stop breathing. "Tough questions?" He repeated, disbelief cutting through every syllable. "There's a difference between tough questions and cheap shots. Between journalism and ambush. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is anything but the latter." Craig rose instinctively, reaching out a hand. "Tom, wait, man. Come on, let's just talk this through." Tom looked at him, his expression softening. "Craig, you're a good man. And Hoda, you've always been kind and professional. But I can't do this. Not like this." He began unclipping his microphone, his movements calm, precise, deliberate, like he was reclaiming control of the room with every motion. "This isn't an interview. It's a hit piece dressed up as morning television. It's entertainment built on humiliation, and I won't be part of it." Savannah stayed seated, staring up at him as the cameras kept rolling, the tension in the air heavy enough to crush. Her voice had lost all pretense of warmth, sharp, cutting, unforgiving. "So, you're really going to walk off just like that? Prove everyone right about you being difficult and unprofessional? This is exactly what people say about you." Tom paused mid-motion, the microphone now in his hand. He looked Savannah squarely in the eye one last time, calm, clear, unwavering. "No, Savannah, I'm not proving anyone right. I'm proving I have self-respect. I'm proving there are lines you just don't cross. Not for ratings, not for clicks, not for whatever you thought this would get you. And I'm proving that sometimes the most professional thing you can do is recognize when something is wrong and remove yourself with dignity." He set the microphone gently on the chair and turned to the audience, his entire demeanor shifting. "I'm truly sorry you all had to witness this. You came here expecting fun, light-hearted entertainment, and instead you got this. You deserve better than watching someone torn down for no reason. I genuinely hope the rest of your day is far better than what you just saw." His voice now was warm, sincere, almost tender, completely different from the controlled anger he had reserved for Savannah. And then, calmly, with cameras rolling and millions watching, Tom Hardy walked off the Today Show set. The cameras followed automatically as he passed the stunned crew and shocked producers, who didn't know whether to intervene or let him go. He didn't storm, slam, or dramatize. He simply left, quietly with his head held high. Back at the desk, chaos erupted. Hoda looked as if she might cry, her professional composure shattered. Craig ran his hands over his face repeatedly, clearly at a loss. Savannah sat rigid, arms crossed, her expression hard, unreadable. Anger, embarrassment, or dawning realization of the moment's weight. No one could tell. Craig was the first to speak, his voice strained but trying to steady the situation. Well, that was certainly unexpected. Definitely not what any of us anticipated this morning. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. But before the feed could cut, before producers could intervene, Hoda turned to Savannah, her words spilling out in a rush of emotion. Savannah. That was really harsh. Way too harsh. None of that was necessary. That wasn't fair to him. Savannah's eyes flashed with anger. I was asking completely legitimate questions, Hoda. Don't act like I'm the villain here. I'm not the bad guy. Legitimate questions! Hoda's voice rose. Rarely did it carry such force. You practically accused him of being a terrible person based on rumors, gossip, and nothing concrete. That's not journalism, Savannah. That's gossip pretending to be journalism, Craig added, voice tight with tension and disbelief. She's right, Savannah. That crossed a line. Guests aren't here to be interrogated like criminals. That's not what this show is. Savannah rose, defensive, volume rising. I refuse to apologize for holding celebrities accountable. They live in the spotlight by choice. They can handle scrutiny. That was legitimate questioning. Hoda's tone remained measured, firm, final. You ambushed him, Savannah. You had your narrative ready before he even sat down. Off camera, someone frantically signaled to cut to commercial, waving arms wildly. But the hosts were too consumed by their escalating argument to notice. Savannah's voice grew louder, sharper. I don't have to explain myself or justify my decisions. I know my job. I've been doing this for years. Craig's voice cut through quietly, but it carried weight and disapproval, hinting at something larger than this one interview. Then maybe you should start acting like it. It was clear. This was no longer just a bad segment. This was a confrontation about principles, about respect, about how the show treated its guests. Finally, mercifully, the tension hung heavy, waiting for the next move. The broadcast cut to commercial, but by then, the damage was done. The moment couldn't be erased. Millions of viewers had just witnessed a major movie star walk off what was supposed to be a friendly promotional interview. They had seen him treated with blatant disrespect, accused of things with no evidence, and, perhaps most strikingly, watched his co-hosts openly disagree with how he had been handled. The show had fractured in real time, right before their eyes. What made the scene even more remarkable was Tom's composure. He never yelled. He never cursed. He never stooped to personal attacks. He stayed entirely in control, standing up for himself with crystal clear conviction. He drew a line, made it unmistakably clear it had been crossed, and when it became evident that the situation would not improve, he made a deliberate, dignified exit. The contrast between Tom and Savannah could not have been sharper. He remained calm, articulate, respectful to his fellow hosts, even apologizing sincerely to the studio audience for the uncomfortable situation. She, on the other hand, grew increasingly defensive and hostile, focused entirely on justifying her own actions. That contrast is what made the moment so explosive. This wasn't just a bad interview. It was a representation of a broader issue. The sense of entitlement among certain media figures who believe celebrity status means surrendering all personal boundaries. The way some use interviews as a weapon to manufacture controversy, rather than foster meaningful conversation. And ultimately, the power of someone with self-respect to recognize when enough is enough and walk away. Tom Hardy didn't lose his cool that morning. He refused to play a game rigged against him from the start. And in doing so, he showed millions of viewers exactly what dignity and self-respect look like under pressure.